It's called GIFE. No. I swear you've never seen another show like it. I swear. You may not like it, you may hate it, but you've never seen a gaming show like this one before. There's no arguing the success of Nintendo Switch, or really Nintendo in general. It has more cash in reserves than God. But one thing I've noticed, even with the Switch, which again has done far better than I ever expected it to. In fact, I predicted 2 million in the first year. It's going to absolutely destroy that. What Nintendo is the masters of, though, is doing the bare minimum.
Nintendo hasn't always been this way, though. It's no stranger to hardware arms races. Back in the SNES and Genesis era, it went back and forth with Sega over bits.
Now you're playing with power, superpower.
In the next generation, it endeavored to have the most powerful console with the N64. That all started to change with the GameCube, though. While it bested the power of the PlayStation 2, it still came in well below Microsoft's Xbox. We also saw the first steps of Nintendo's new direction towards compact, low power consumption machines that continued onward with Wii, Wii U, and ultimately, Switch. Nintendo has reached a moment of realization with its fans, and really, the general public. It understands better than anyone the laws of diminishing returns with hardware, and specifically, how it relates to its products. Does a 4K Mario game really make up for massive losses in hardware profits? Probably not. Nintendo operates with a Japan-first mentality and makes almost all of its decisions based on that market. This is why cords for all Nintendo products are insultingly short. This is why Nintendo continues to try to make everything smaller and more portable. The country is rather forward-thinking where technology is concerned, and it can easily be argued that when Nintendo follows Japan, it succeeds, and when it follows the West, it fails. This just good enough ideal carries over into other aspects of Nintendo's business as well. While the rest of the world can plug in just about any USB headset and chat with others while playing online, on Switch, it's so archaic, it's like the company is trying to convince you to not do it. On every other platform, you can purchase or stream other forms of entertainment. The Switch just got Hulu, its first video app. Xbox Live and PSN are active communities that encourage exploration and interaction. Switch doesn't have an online environment at all. Online play works, you can chat if you're especially studious, and that's good enough. Of course, this would never work if it weren't for Nintendo's stellar software, but even there it's very shrewd. Some semblance of a cinematic story in a Mario game? Ain't gonna happen. Online functionality in Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Nintendo's ability to walk that razor-thin edge of product per dollar keeps it afloat during the tough times and allows it to flourish during the booms.
With all the recent discussion about single-player only games going away, and we have had this discussion literally for like the last decade, and they're still here, they're not going away. I'm not contending that they're going away, but what it has done is it made me think about exactly how long a campaign needs to be to make a game worthwhile as a standalone purchase.
As the saying goes, time is money, and many consumers consider playtime when deciding to purchase a video game. Single-player campaigns vary in length and tend to be shorter if a game has any sort of multiplayer component. But what is the breaking point? Short indie games only muddy the waters further because they're often priced at a discount. There are so many variables to consider, but quality is most important. Who cares how long a game is if it stinks? More of a bad thing will never make it a good thing. So let's function under the assumption that a game is at least good. Particularly for older, more experienced players, this is extremely important. And lastly, the most wide-ranging variable is the individual player's amount of disposable income. According to a 2017 report from the ESA, the average video game player is 35 years old, which would place them well into their careers. Median income data for gamers is hard to find, but MPD reported that PC gamers had a median annual income of $69K way back in 2014. And that number has undoubtedly risen since then. So, at the very least, the typical gamer has more than enough extra cash to purchase the games he or she really wants. So money isn't typically an object, and we'll assume the games are at least good. So that leaves playtime and creativity as the X factors. Whether fair or not, consumers have established an entertainment hours per dollar scale. We saw this all the time with our old subscription model. People would complain that they were getting more hours per dollar from their Netflix subscriptions. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the average price of a movie ticket in the US is $9. In a study conducted in 2014, the average runtime for a film was 85 minutes. Based on this data, a video game that sells for $60 needs to provide 8 to 9 hours of playtime to achieve the same entertainment value as films. However, if you toss streaming services like Netflix that cost just $10 per month into the equation, a game would have to be hundreds of hours long to achieve the same value. Even cable and satellite packages that are priced significantly higher than streaming services are a far better deal when it comes to entertainment hours per dollar. This is likely why we're seeing more games as a service. The answer is somewhere in the middle though. If you're like me, you value the time spent with games more than with passive entertainment, so it's ludicrous to expect games to hit the same thresholds as TV. Even so, you can't ignore the fact that games are competing with all forms of entertainment for revenue, so the 8 or 9 hour comparison with films isn't apt either. That leaves us with a rough estimate of a 15 to 20 hour breakpoint for full price games, with a sliding scale downwards if they're particularly innovative.
So yeah, coming up with a hard number for this is pretty much impossible. Everyone's going to have a different take on it. Some people are going to say, well, even if I get a little bit of this type of a game, that's good enough for me to spend $60. A lot of it depends upon how much disposable income people have. If they have money to burn, they don't really care how long a campaign is, as long as they enjoy it, and the $60 means nothing to them. But I think for the average player, at least 15 hours is kind of the break-even point.
Alice! Daddy's very mad! It's all over now. Daddy isn't angry anymore. You know Daddy loves you.
With the current state of games, there are just some topics that should not be broached. Domestic violence is one of them. It's particularly sensitive because it often involves innocent children, which ratchets up the attention. Imagine if a game were to experience a bug during one of these scenes. It's a meme nightmare waiting to happen. Games just haven't got to a place with storytelling where I'm comfortable with it, and I'm even less confident when the ongoing battle with Uncanny Valley is considered. Even the best video games can be clunky and awkward at times, and when approaching something like domestic violence as an entertainment medium, there's very little wiggle room. Anything less than perfection is just asking for trouble. Even films have struggled to portray domestic violence accurately and respectfully. I totally get that in order to get something right, it has to be tried first, but then I wonder why domestic violence needs to be explored in games at all. What value does it really provide? What is the cutoff, if there is one? Is it rape or sexual violence? They've been done, and they didn't improve the industry's optics with the Tomb Raider revival or Grand Theft Auto 5. In all honesty, it could send us down a slippery slope of negative mainstream press coverage that will ultimately dredge up the tired video games and violence debate. Until games have reached a new technological paradigm and top talent writers and directors begin working in the space, they're just not equipped to handle such delicate topics.
Pikachu, Papa!